Story 1. 1990 feels like society has been sliding backward in my lifetime, and that my youth has been robbed of hope, optimism, and forward progress. I find myself dissociating lately. Story 2. I tried to end it in November while failing sophomore year of college and dealing with extreme disappointment and rejection from my parents. Now I am living with my partner and saving money to take online classes. Sometimes things get hard, but having the support I have now is quite literally life-saving. Taking it one day at a time. Story 3. Life is difficult. I was born in 1993. It is not at all what I expected life to be. I wonder why I was even born. I am starting to think I was an accident because there is no way I was born on purpose to do this every day for nothing. Life feels like a repetitive cycle going nowhere. Story 4. 1997. Life is good. Bought a house from the 1970s that my fiancé and I are renovating. We are getting married in a couple of months and expecting our first baby a month after the wedding. Story 503 here. It's been a weird ride. We're this unique bridge generation. We're old enough to have vivid memories of a world without smartphones and dial-up internet, but still young enough that our entire professional and social lives have been shaped by the web. We were told to go to college to get a good job, so we did, and then graduated into a wrecked economy with a mountain of debt. Now we're in our 20s, watching homeownership and the idea of a stable retirement drift further and further out of reach. There's a prevailing sense that the goalposts our parents had were moved on us, and we're just trying to find a different game to play that still feels fulfilling. It's not all doom and gloom, but there's definitely a collective sense of being a bit jaded. Story 6. In 1994, I experienced some beautiful parts of life before the technology takeover, playing outside unaware of the horrors of the world. Then I witnessed the slow decline of modern-day civilization, living through late-stage capitalism. I have given up on finding love, a family of my own, or ever being able to afford my own place, let alone buy one. But what keeps me going is community, the friends I have made along the way who genuinely care about this world and the people in it. We work towards a better world every day, whether we ever live to see it or not. Whether it ends in complete collapse or not, we will keep trying. Story 7. Instead of taking care of my own life, I ended up taking care of my parent. 96 and have been doing this since 2020. Story 8. In 1997, I was trying to get a job after more than a year of unemployment. I had never dated or had a boyfriend. Having a family or children seemed like an impossible dream. Having a job, being able to buy food and clothes for myself, and having a small apartment after 25 or 30 years sounded like the biggest success I could ever expect. I thought I would be the happiest person then. I did not expect anything special from my life. Story 9. I am at a stage where I feel both too old and too young for some things. I do not know when it will make sense, if ever. Story 10. It is disappointing. None of my family has talked about my upcoming college graduation, but they are planning my little sister's high school graduation a year in advance. Story 11. It kind of sucks. It looks like I will never be able to own a house. Jobs are paying a ridiculously low salary for a huge amount of work. Dating applications ruin dating, and real-life connections are hard to come by. I hate living in a city where everywhere you go, there is someone with a camera and a microphone trying to be social media famous. My friends and I want to go out more, but everything is very expensive. I wanted to have children, but it looks like I will never be able to afford them, so I will not. I am involved in activism, but every time I bring up easy ways to care for the planet, I am met with hate, harassment, and even physical violence. I went to college, earned a master's degree, and started a doctor of philosophy only for my boss to be a high school dropout nepotism baby with tons of followers. Nice. The only things keeping me here are my dogs and the animals I rescue and foster. Story 12. Every night I wish my vitals will fail in my sleep, and every morning I search for bridges near me to jump from. I know I will die alone and miserable, hopefully soon, but here I still am after 31 years of suffering. Story 13. 94 and I'm doing okay, I guess. I have my country's equivalent of the board certification later this year, and that makes me anxious. Other than that, I'm fine. I like my job, I have a nice rented flat, and my friends. Life could be a lot worse, and it was at some points in my life. Story 14, 1998, personally going great. A $65,000 job, 2 children, a lovely wife, and on track to buy our first house next year. Socially, though this country is done for, the decline is real. Story 15. There is a lot of negativity here, but life is pretty good for this 1991-er. I moved out of the United States 13 years ago and have not looked back. I work for an international corporation, but in their German office, so my government ensures I have health insurance, unemployment insurance, paid maternity leave, 13 public holidays, and over 4 weeks of vacation a year. I married a great guy, had a child, bought a house, awaiting the arrival of child 2 any day now. I speak 2 languages fluently. Vacation in Italy or Greece most summers. Winters are kind of difficult, but I have a fantastic collection of sweaters and get to drink mulled wine, so it is possibly an overall positive. Story 16, 1990. My life has been wonderful. I had a great childhood and have a vibrant family and social life. I am married with a child. However, in the last few years, I have witnessed for the first time people being stripped of rights and dignity. I am not blind, and the future for my child will not be as bright as mine unless we stop the decline taking place. Story 17. Lots of uncertainty, if I'm being honest, but we move forward. I'm lucky to be surrounded by good people, but as far as I can see, people are either focusing on school or work or not really doing much. That is mainly what you will see in our age group. Younger kids probably have a better grasp on things. Story 18. 2001 could have been better, but it has been going well. I have a nice remote job, brought my mother to stay with me, overcame a financial crisis, cleared debts, and now I just have to keep working for a few more years to hopefully buy a house. Still single, but not in a rush for that. Story 19. Life isn't too bad. It's very expensive to exist, but we keep existing. I have my dream job, a loving partner, and a dog. I am also very lucky to have moved out, but renting is becoming ridiculous. The only thing is, I wish I was further in life. I want to own a home, drive, and get married, but it's far too expensive to do. I also want to eat less cheese, but that is a challenge. Story 20. 1990. Other than the fact that I am turning 35 next week, my life has gotten progressively better over the years. I finally have a job I have turned into a career. My wife and I bought our first house a little over a year ago. We have 3 children. I honestly could not be happier. Sure, I have had my bad times, really bad times, but I have pushed through and persevered. It makes the good times like this even better. Story 21. 98. Really difficult. My mother died. My siblings have alienated me, and my father was diagnosed with cancer 8 years ago. I have been trying to care for him until he passes away, likely in the next few years. My stepfather took my inheritance, and my wife and I are living in a small shack on her grandfather's property. I tell myself that I am lucky to have what I have, but it is hard. I am on the verge of tears constantly, but I can't let go enough to cry. Story 22. 90s here. It's nice reminiscing about the past and how unique it was for us. Still going out to play, but having a Nintendo at home. The malls were decorated for Christmas, with places to sit, talk, and have fun. Life was much more social back then. Life is still nice because there is always hope. While things are not in a golden era, the sky is still blue, the sun shines bright, and the wind blows gently. I'm enjoying it. Story 23. 93. Pretty good. Not too old yet. Financially stable. Solid career. Mortgage. No kids. Single. Going to travel next year. Have had great experiences up to this point. I do not know what else I could want. Maybe people born close to me are the last ones who can have a relatively worry-free life, but it depends on what you make of it. Story 24. 1990. I am married, a homeowner, have a stable job, 3 cats, and a vegetable plot in the garden. Sure, I would not mind a pay rise, but on balance, I cannot complain too much. I just wish that the state of the world was better for everyone. Story 25, 1997, and I feel like I am in between being old school and yearning to learn new things like music and technology. I feel irritated by the state of the internet and social media. Politics is as ridiculous as ever. It feels good to have a couple of good circles of friends. I am a guitarist for an online band where the other members are on the other side of the planet. It is fun, and I am always hopeful for my own life, just not for the rest of the world at this point. Family is tighter than ever. Dad recently had a stroke, and our financial situation is bad, but we are fighting and enjoying every day. Story 26, 1993. Angry and bitter. I felt like I was given the short end of the stick even though I did everything right. That is why I am mad. Story 27. In 2004, I just started my first full-time job, building a home, with a wedding planned for next year. I am scared to be an adult in our world right now, to be honest. I do not know if we can live comfortably as we want. I hope so. Story 28, 1991. I used to be the youngest of my coworkers. Now I am the oldest. I referenced Xenon, and one of my coworkers said, "I have never heard of that." Story 29, 2003 was pretty amazing, honestly. College is so much fun. There are many amazing people to meet without the peer pressure of high school, and I love my major. I moved in with my boyfriend last year. I am excited for the future. Story 30, 1990 is going pretty well. I just celebrated 10 years with the love of my life. We are having our third baby this month. I am just finishing up a whole house remodel. I mostly enjoy being a stay-at-home mom. I count myself lucky even if some things are difficult. The hardest part of my life is my 6-year-old daughter's health issues. Now, for the world as a whole, it is very difficult. Story 31. Very end of the spectrum 05. I'm chilling overall. I have a job, a girlfriend, and a good set of friends. I live with my parents and am able to save a lot of money for my future. I drive a car with no payments. I make music for fun. I also love nature, camping, and having fires and dinners with my friends. Honestly, life is nice once you find the things that you appreciate. I have been depressed before and still struggle with anxiety, but I have been working on that, and honestly, life is going well. I turned 20 in a few weeks. Story 32, 1991. A bit shocked by all these negative messages. Here is my positive message. Life is going great at the moment. 3 years ago, I started my small independent shop after saving up for 10 years. Thankfully, it is going really well. A year ago, I married my lovely wife, and a few months ago, we found out we are expecting a baby. We also bought a nice house a few months ago that still needs some work, but we are getting there. We have not been on holiday for the past 3 years because of the business, but you cannot have everything in life. Story 33. I was born in 1991. I have lived a relatively simple life since giving birth 2 years ago and moving to a suburb. I have a comfortable remote job that allows me to spend a lot of time with my daughter. I worked in a hospital during the COVID-19 pandemic and experienced extreme burnout, so I feel very grateful to be in my current position. Pharmacist salaries are not as impressive as they used to be due to significant student loan debt and living in a high cost of living area, but we are financially comfortable. Being a parent is very challenging but rewarding. I am anxious about the future for my daughter's generation and our family, especially since my in-laws are immigrants. I am considering moving out of the country if circumstances continue in this direction. Story 34. The only thing keeping me alive is the determination of saying, "I'm strong, motherfuckers." But honestly, life feels heavier every day, and it is harder to find reasons to stay optimistic. Story 35. In 2005, I was living with my mother, working at a dead-end gas station job because I could not afford college. Most of my money went to rent and personal expenses. I was almost constantly disappointed in myself. Story 36. Suffering like the rest of us. But you have to do what you have to do. I have spent too much of my life in my comfort zone, so I am trying to push past that. Story 37. This is 05. It has been a rough ride. I have lost many of my loved ones since a young age and just recently lost another. But I keep pushing by working hard and thinking positively, hustling instead of engaging in crime or wasting time. Story 38. Not great. My family is in debt for medical bills, house and car repairs, and housing payments. I also have several health problems that are difficult to diagnose and treat. Story 39. Doing great. Most of the people I knew growing up who were awful ended up with awful lives. I am chillin'. There is a lot of doom and gloom in the air, but honestly, that is how it has always been. We are just old enough to recognize it now. Story 40. Born in 2001. It is okay. Could be better. If I were not terribly shy, it would probably be much better. Story 41. In 1998, I felt like I was lagging behind everyone else and struggling with self-esteem. However, I am doing better than I have been. Story 42. In 2002, life was going well. I was planning to get back with the girl who dumped me by using a song I wrote. Will it take one try? Hopefully. But if she instantly says she wants to get back with me, I will say no. I have to play hard to get to really win her over. Story 43. 1996 here. I don't even know. I don't know if I'm just numb to it all in general, or if I'm so deep in a dissociation episode that it's my new norm, you know? I quit my job in late 2023 because I was miserable without anything lined up, but I saved enough to support myself for what I thought would just be a few weeks. Nothing. It is demoralizing and embarrassing at this point. But hey, I've made some new friends since then and went to an old friend's house today. I got to pet a cat and a dog. So it's not all bad. Story 44. Feels like adult life isn't what I thought it would be. Comparing now to what it was like at school feels like two very different eras. Not only has technology changed so much, but dating nowadays is horrible. It feels like you have to prove yourself, and advertising myself to get a match in online dating is so unnatural that I gave up years ago. It's difficult to make real friends as well. It seems so easy to talk to each other in school, but society has shifted into a self-absorbing, cold life where a sense of community is seldom found. Rather than initiating a conversation, most people are glued to their phones to avoid a friendly chat. I just feel completely misplaced and somewhat unprepared for what this world is like today. I accept the way things are, but I don't understand some of it. Story 45. Dismal. I am currently painting my rental at 1 a.m., so I do not feel like I want to burn it down and move out into the woods forever. Story 46. 1998. I am in my quarter-life crisis right now. Most plans did not work out the way I thought they would. My first job was as a web developer. I did not care about the job or the product I was making. Life felt purposeless. Eventually, I quit without having another job lined up. I kind of regret it because it was good money. I should have considered quiet quitting or something similar. I traveled solo and was unemployed for almost a year. My second job, my current one, is as a software engineer in financial technology. Life is not as dreadful as before, but I still feel lost. I spend too much time worrying about the future and reminiscing about the past. Story 47. Teenager pandemic. Adult World War III. Story 48. Too young to agree with older people, too old to enjoy the 2000+ people. Generation Z. Stuck in the middle of, yeah, I like the changes and everything, and, for goodness sake, give me the old days back. Hybrid. Story 49. 1992. Access to great cartoons as a kid. Nokia 3310 and PlayStation 2 released when I was 8. iPhone and PlayStation 3 released when I was 15. I was a teenager when emo was popular and when YouTube and social media were starting out. I was in my late 20s when COVID-19 hit and I am 33 now. I feel like it was a good time to be born to experience some of society's most meaningful milestones. Story 50. Life is pretty good. How about you, person born in 2090? What brings you to this year? Are you trying to prevent the apocalypse? Story 51. Not great. Things are falling apart slowly. At this point, doom scrolling kind of relaxes me as my problems seem distant when I hyperfocus on the issues happening in the world. Story 52. 2003. I have this strange balance of maintaining optimism while seeing the world literally burn. I find myself feeling disillusioned by those who came before me. A sense of desperation washes over me when I think of the future. Is there even a future? It sounds dramatic, so I brush it off sometimes and keep going. But I cannot remain oblivious to a sinking boat. I would love to see more community involvement among my age group, though. Just some thoughts. Story 53, 92-year-old male. Life could be worse. Stalled career paths. Freelance work dried up. Borrowing money. Working on my software as a service product for almost 3 years now without customers. Surprised I have lasted this long in terms of still having an apartment on my own. Single. Have only had sex once or twice in the last 8 years, and neither experience was very healthy or good. Dating is harder than ever, but I mostly attribute that to being in Southern California. On the downside, like everyone else, the promises and hopes of the future we were given were clearly poor predictions, and the generation before us really harmed the next few generations. Government is almost always going to be disappointing, but who would have thought it would get this bad and divisive? On the upside, I love technology. With artificial intelligence advancements allowing me to explore career paths I never thought I could, I think that is pretty impressive. On the flip side, none of my friends understand me, nor do they understand technology as much as I do, so it is hard for me to feel like I fit in anywhere. But back to the good, because let us leave on a high note. I have my health, no major accidents to me or my family, no funeral invitations in about 25 years, and I am about to transition into my prime years. That is something I look forward to. Story 54, 1994. I have a stable job, a partner, and a cat, but I had one of my testicles removed last week. I now have age-related health problems. Story 55. I work extremely hard and have a career, yet I am still poor with no house and no nice truck. I have little savings and nothing toward retirement. I live for each day. If I have a roof over my head and food, then I am okay for one more day. I do not work toward a future because I have none. I will work until the day I die just to avoid being homeless. Story 56, 1995. I turned 30 this year. Emphasizing what many others are saying, I feel like we are moving backward. Story 57. It is a struggle, but I am glad I am not unlucky enough to be younger than this. I only made it because my career peaked at the right time and in the right economy. Story 58. 1991. I'm female, 33. I was made redundant in February 2025 and received a $5,000 payout. After bills and rent, I have $31 left for food and petrol. I couldn't find a job in my chosen career in reception, administration, or data entry. Recently, I accepted a job at McDonald's. I start on Monday. The pay is $33 an hour during the day and $42 overnight, as it is a 24/7 McDonald's. I am at rock bottom, but any job is better than no job. I am just hoping my landlord doesn't raise the rent in November. Story 59. I don't know if I am autistic or schizophrenic. I am 27 years old, looking for an apartment because I am still living with my divorced parents. Actually, I am waiting for better health and it will come. Today, I am playing Counter-Strike 2 Deathmatch because I got a 7-day ban after a delirious phase at the end of a game. I am now training to do flick shots with the Desert Eagle. I spent 600 to 700 euros on Katawiki for items worth more than 2,000 euros. This is also an advertisement. Please do not be upset. I am looking for a girlfriend. I have some success but am still a little bit shy. I am going to sleep now. See you, everybody. Story 60. Fine. Married, bought an apartment. But I am very disappointed at how little I can get being among the top 7% earners. I am very upset with my country becoming a North Korean-like totalitarian dictatorship waging an endless war. Story 61. I was born in 1989, so close enough. Social media has made things worse. People are far more entitled and narcissistic than before. I hate how phones dominate our lives now. Things were not perfect back in the day, but I genuinely feel things are worse now. Much worse. Story 62. 1993. I caught the ride of the last late boomers of my country. I have a big house with a cheap mortgage, 2 daughters, a wonderful wife, and enough time and money to follow 2 hobbies each. I get depressed every time I read world news, continent news, or country news, but local news is pretty hopeful and optimistic. Generally, I am frequently tired as I take too much onto myself. Taking care of 2 little children is no joke, but life in general is quite satisfying. Story 63. We are the generation that seems most educated about the path to the future we are currently set upon, yet we have the least agency to do anything about it. I remember Blockbuster, dial-up internet, and how things were before smartphones, yet daily I am questioned about how much was given to me by the internet. This is despite rising to leadership positions now in the 3rd job in a row. I am currently a supervisor at a major hospital, yet treatment is no different. In summary, I am extremely overworked and undervalued. It is hard not to lose hope for the future. Story 64. 1991. Private life is awesome. I relive my childhood with my kids with Nintendo, Pokemon, and Lego and love it. I am so thankful for my family. Society changed somewhere after the Obama administration and went terribly wrong. We were so far ahead, but now we are going back to the 1980s. Story 65. Life is great. Married, steady job, love my hobbies. Not thrilled with the geopolitical state of things currently, but we vibe. Story 66. 1994 has been tough. Mental and physical health are taking their toll. When I feel like I have a handle on things, something happens. I'm trying to be positive, but I just do not know how much I can take. Story 67. I feel like the world has forgotten about me. I left school right as the 2008 recession hit, and it took me years to find a job, which was a depressing period with no support. By the time the government responded with employment schemes for young people, I was too old for them. In my late 20s, I went back to university. I was not able to get a full-time salary job until I was 30. I keep thinking that there must be more to this, but I do not have the financial resources to really find out. So I just keep on plodding. Story 68. 1998 here. I miss when times were simpler. Even just going back to 2016 would be nice. The world is taking a turn toward many things I do not like. In some sense, there is too much globalization, too much social media, wars, and social pressure in life. I miss being younger and ignorant of my surroundings to some extent. Story 69. In 1994, I bought a 1970s house and got married on Saturday. I drive a 2019 Volvo V60 and have a decent job. I do not worry too much about what happens in the world. I am just trying to live my life and travel. I do not want any children because I do not know what the future will bring for them. I am taking care of myself, my wife, and our Akita. Cannot complain at the moment. This might change someday, but for now I am good. Story 70. 1994. My life is quite good, but it feels like a majority of people are drawn into a cycle of never-ending capitalism, and they cannot even imagine a different, more just world. We accept that we can get food from all over the world into an all-you-can-eat restaurant where half of it will end up in the trash. Making sure the poor family 2 streets over is fed? Logistically impossible. A single mother with 2 children needs food assistance because she can't work 3 shifts and weekends since her kids can't stay home alone. Leech. Society would be better if she and her children died on the spot. A billionaire who enriches himself through legal loopholes, tax evasion, and exploiting thousands in their workforce is a shining example of a smart man that everyone should look up to. Picture of success. It boggles my mind how the rich and politicians succeeded in convincing people that the real problem is anything but their greedy hands. Story 71. Sou brasileiro. Vejo uma geração de pessoas inúteis atualmente. A minha geração foi de pessoas úteis. Mas a vida é um ciclo. Acho que estamos chegando na pior fase. Acredito que agora vai melhorar. Story 72. 1998. Everything is exhausting, but I do my best to be happy anyway. I am disabled and cannot work, and Medicaid cuts are terrifying. However, I live with 2 of my closest friends and have 2 cats whom I love. as well as a strong online support system despite my failing body and country, the United States. I try very hard to do what I can to make the world a better place. Story 73. I am cashing in while I still can. This place is going to go up in flames, and we will all be left to crawl through the ashes. Story 74. In 2003, life in my country was miserable. The tension of a possible war never ended, and inflation worsened every day. Story 75. 1991. Surviving. Mental health. Not great. Finances. Enough to get by. Love life. Non-existent. Body. Completely damaged. Just hoping and praying the old gods give me enough strength to keep going. Story 76. In 1992, I was depressed most of the time. I did not have much savings, but I was still able to make a living by doing what I loved somehow. I did not understand how others coped with society's changes in standards. I became more and more antisocial. Story 77. 1999 has its peaks and valleys, as always. I just got married in December, and I'm starting college in August. Because I work in the school district, financials have been uncertain this summer. My husband and I haven't been able to save up. Now I'm uncertain how my college future will be since I'm starting as a freshman and rely on the federal Pell Grant, which might be significantly reduced to avoid a load of student debt, which I will still be getting. But I know that God has a path for me, knows my struggles, and that everything will be okay. Story 78. 1990s. Exhausted. Lonely. I wish I were not buried in loans. It feels like I cannot live my own life, yet here I am. Sometimes I wish I were someone else. I will never come out on top. Story 79. A bit boring. Friends, yes, but sometimes lonely. Successes and yet fear of failure every day. Finally doing a few things I love, earning more money, but spending also goes up. Story 80. About an hour ago, I randomly listened to Cascada. Every time we touch, and I almost cried. I got a relatively good-paying job in information technology, which drains the life out of me, but I have great friends and the best partner. Still, the things going on in the world and the political situation divide relationships, and I wish I could be as careless as I was back then. Story 81. Born in 1990 and fortunate overall. I was able to graduate without debt, which allowed me to buy a house in 2015. After a few years of infertility, I finally had a baby last year. No complaints besides the word burning around me. Story 82. I have been working since 2001, ever since I was first able to. I still do not have a house or land to buy because the market turned bad as soon as I was able to purchase. However, I do have a paid-off car and a great credit score. Story 83. A friend of mine. Hey guys, want to know how I flirt? I ask if the girl's knees are shaking. I have many opportunities and good icebreakers. I hate how smart this is. Story 84. Born in 1997. Life is difficult and getting worse every day. Although I have a decent job compared to the standards of my country, I cannot even buy a mediocre car with my savings, let alone a house. Socially, I am a mess. I have not had a genuine friend to talk to for a long time. When it comes to dating, it has never been my strong suit. This year is especially challenging. Whatever I plan or want does not work out. There is a huge emptiness in me. Story 85. I'm poor. I have to work 48 to 60-hour weeks to live paycheck to paycheck. Now I'm hearing that I might lose healthcare so that former President Donald Trump can fund immigration and customs enforcement, an organization that only racists support. So yes, it has been frustrating. I'm one bad expense away from losing everything, and it feels like the government is making it worse so that people of color can suffer, when all I want is for everyone to prosper. Immigrants are not the reason I'm struggling. If this bill passes, former President Donald Trump will have hurt me worse than any scary minority he imagines ever could. Story 86. 1993 salaryman in a big city playing the boring game. I am at this phase of my life where I reminisce about the late 1990s era, early 2000s, and the teenage years of the 2010s. I had no money, but the joy I experienced back then was something else. Story 87. On paper, I am sure my life looks great. Married, kids, a job until I was laid off. At least I have some severance and a house. In reality, I am depressed and struggle with crippling anxiety. I am labeled as lazy because of it. I am sad I brought children into this chaotic world, and I would love to leave the United States. Story 88. Failed senior year of university abroad. Managed to struggle through parents' yells. Secured a nice internship. Currently doing unpaid office work in hopes of getting promoted to a good salary in 4 months. Maybe things will improve. 2004. Story 89. 1989 here. These comments compelled me to respond. I might have made a sad response had I read this 1.5 years ago, but I quit all news, YouTube, and Facebook and abandoned all politics. Reddit is all I use now. I feel like a kid again with my head in the sand. Social media is like cigarettes before the 1960s, killing us without us knowing it. Gratitude for everything is everything. I have a wife, a boy, and 2 energetic Labrador retrievers with a sweet garden. I have worked hard since I was 20 years old. More than 10 years of 14 or more hours a day with nothing to show for it. It is easy to feel sorry for yourself. I came from nothing, received no handouts, and I am glad for that. Now I have a career and 2 businesses, and I love reaping the rewards of life. Your life is what you make it. Do not read doom and gloom content. Do not keep up with the Joneses, and never feel sorry for yourself. That is all needless poison. Make friends and have fun. Cheers. Story 90. I wasted a whole lot of time on a degree for a career path that artificial intelligence is in the process of consuming in its entirety. But I am not angry anymore. Well, sometimes I am. Story 91. 1991 here. I live in a welfare country, have a good career with a decent salary, and own an apartment in a small town by the ocean. Still, it doesn't seem enough. Life feels empty somehow. Story 92. 2001, not bad really, not bad at all. Working full-time, I turned my hobby of photography into a second consistent job. Neither feels like work as I enjoy what I do. I finally found a good group of friends who have helped me through extremely rough times. I am starting to get on top of mental health and finding myself again. Messing around with cameras and cars. I just bought another. Overall, if you told me a few years ago this is where I would be, I would not have believed you. I had lost all hope but was forced to keep going by my friends and family, and I have come out the other side doing better than I could have ever dreamed of. I have a great girlfriend too, hoping to break into the housing market next as I have achieved what I want so far. Hard work, consistency, self-reflection, and sacrifice all pay off. Everything I have earned on my own, and I am very grateful for the satisfaction that gives me. I am very proud of how far I have come as a person too. Story 93, 2002. I have put in 6 job applications this week. I cannot afford healthy food or health insurance. I had to move back in with my parents because my apartment kept increasing the association fee. It is 96 degrees Fahrenheit where I live. I have an associate degree in biology yet cannot find a good paying job. My neighborhood is already deteriorating. I have no hope of buying my own house, let alone starting a family. A box of cereal costs $6. You tell me how life is. Story 94. In 1999, life was difficult, mental health was challenging, and debt was overwhelming. A diagnosis of borderline personality disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder was anticipated. I mainly played video games and went to the gym. Story 95. In 2002, I am doing well. I am almost done with college and optimistic about the future. I might be proposing soon. My dog is cute, and things are generally looking up for me. I feel very fortunate and am not taking it for granted. Story 96. Born in 1990, the world is troubled. Late-stage capitalism has taken over. The working class is struggling and too divided to take action. It is going to get much worse. Story 97. Unemployed and broke. Just qualified for Medicaid in time for the current government to reduce benefits. Unemployment benefits end next week. Over 560 job applications submitted since last November with no success. Story 98. 1992. Been better, been worse. Government run by fascists, morons, and stooges. Right-wing political parties denying basic facts and selling out to wealthy individuals while the poor and oppressed suffer. Wage gaps increase, upward mobility decreases, and the poor get poorer. But that is nothing new. Story 99.01 here. Could be worse in my case. I was able to achieve some things like getting my degree, traveling and staying in Australia for a year, and generally figuring out my life. Not all of us had this chance. Then again, it's really tough out there. I am getting paid paycheck to paycheck when I have a job. I dated a couple of times, leading to nowhere. Still a virgin. Still socially awkward to an extent. I feel I was raised with values that no one holds anymore. It's really weird. Guess we still have work to do then. Story 100. 1997. It's okay. Busy processing the fact that I'm in my late 20s, almost 30, but still feel like a toddler. I look young, so nobody treats me like an adult. Story 101. Bizarre and a complete defeat in a way that defies explanation, probably one of a kind for the planet, which in some ways is something to appreciate, but in others hard to accept. I will not elaborate. Story 102. Expecting our second baby next month. I just got home from a recreational softball game. I have Dungeons and Dragons this weekend, and I'm looking forward to that. My wife and toddler are both already asleep. Earlier this week, our toddler had an emergency at daycare where he fell off a play structure onto his face. He has a nasty scrape on his head but is otherwise okay. After that incident, one of the workers quit, and now our daycare is closed for the rest of the month while they try to find a replacement. We are struggling to find an alternative for childcare while we both work full-time. In other news, on the flip side of the challenges of parenthood, my wife and I had a great conversation recently about exploring kink together and bought some toys. I'm excited to try it with her this weekend. Funnily enough, we went to a children's toy store right before the adult one, so I was holding a tiny toddler dragon costume the entire time we were talking to the clerk about floggers and other items. A good representation of the duality of life. Anyway, that's a snapshot of my life at the moment. Story 103. Born in 2000. Life is good. We are at the most prosperous time in history. There is so much to look forward to. I think most people's negative perspectives are heavily shaped by the echo chambers of the internet. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.